Hello, I'm Louise Rieger and it's the 12th of June 2024. I'm an oil painter living in Kent in the UK. I grew up in a working class family on a council estate in Chatham, which is one of the Medway towns here in Kent. I suppose everyone's formative years has an impact on how they view the world, the adult they become, and in my case, the art I create. My childhood memories of growing up in Medway in the 70s and 80s have undoubtedly had an impact on the work I'm creating right now. The Medway towns that I remember as a child had a particular vibe, a kind of self-assured swagger, really comfortable with its own identity. Chatham was built around a dockyard, which I guess gave the town a focus and a certain character. My family had lived there for generations and I belonged. And there was an art college, which I went to as soon as I left school. The town was rough and ready for sure, and life was tough. But it had a real sense of community. Everyone knew each other. Kids played together in the street or up the woods. We went to the working men's club at the weekends and there was kids' discos. It was full of larger-than-life people laughing, getting by, telling stories about it all. Some of the stories I was so amazed by that when I was a teenager, if I'd heard a good one, I'd come home and I'd write it down in a little book so that I wouldn't forget it, which I still have, by the way. My paintings are totally informed by my background, and I often use old photos from that time as a direct reference. But what I find really interesting is how accurate is the description I've just given of the time and place I grew up. And those people I mentioned telling their stories, how truthful were they? And these are the themes that I like to explore in my work. Life's ups and downs has an impact on all of us, and I think when we reflect on the goings on in our lives, whether that's highs, lows, or if there's uncertainty, we often look for comfort and joy in familiarity, and that is when nostalgia kicks in. I am, and I know I'm not alone, reflective of my place in the world, what brought me here, where I'm going next. Life moves really fast, and through my work, I'm trying to make sense of the past in order to find meaning in the present. My biggest influences, that's so hard to answer because it's everything I've ever seen or heard or experienced. But okay, when I was an art student, I studied illustration and I loved artists like Egon Schiele because you could really see the line and the beautiful drawing in his work. And these days, I could stand in front of a Caravaggio just in amazement at the light, the drama, and just think, how on earth did you paint that? Something that really influences me, I guess, are beautifully shot films, how they're framed, lit, choice of soundtrack. It's about the storytelling, creating an atmosphere. And it's not just film, it could be television. I recently rewatched Better Call Saul and thought it just looked fantastic. And same with music. I love artists like Tom Waits who can just sort of paint a picture in your head with his words and music. And I guess the Smiths were also a huge influence, back in my teens. There is always an ongoing focus on becoming a better painter, learning something new and adapting with every artwork. Every now and then I feel the need to paint something completely different to shake things up a bit. I have the urge at the moment to get out of the studio and paint more landscapes. When you've been putting yourself out there as an artist for a little while, you slowly grow an audience, which is great. That is what you want. But if you start getting recognition for doing a particular thing, it can be so tempting to just keep doing that thing because people seem to like it. I mean, that's great if that's what you want to do, but I find that such a challenge. I mean, I know that if I stayed in one lane, I'd probably have more success, but I'm just not ready to do that. I would tell my younger self to start thinking this way sooner, to just take a moment and think what it is that you want to do creatively, and not to just move in a certain direction because someone has said that's what you should do or that's what you're good at. Just to have more confidence, listen to yourself, and also to know that even though it seems like everybody else knows what they're doing, they probably don't. I mean, even though I'm in my 50s, I feel like I'm only just getting going. There's just so much I want to try. While I'm working, I'll have different background noise going on depending on what I'm doing at the time. If I'm busy moving around my studio doing this and that or going in and out, then I'll usually have the radio on, 6 music usually. If I'm more settled and I'm at my easel, then, still music, or it could be a podcast, or sometimes videos on YouTube that I'll just watch on my phone. People most likely talking about art or music or films, as long as they're not too distracting. But if I need to think, then I usually have complete silence. What is the best reaction I've had to my work? I had a nice message from someone recently who bought one of my prints. It was one of my mum doing my nan's hair in our very early 80s kitchen. He said that he hadn't realised the effect my work would have on their room. He said that so much of the imagery in the artwork that they were looking at was so aspirational. And actually it was really warming to have a typically working class scene on their wall. So I thought that was really, really sweet. The best reaction I've had to my work is when someone is moved to tears, and this has happened quite a few times. I guess I choose images that tell strangely relatable stories, and that can evoke quite complex emotions with people. A particular painting will tap into a memory for them, and before you know it, we've been talking for ages about their own upbringing or a particular person, and and they're welling up. And I think people view my work through their own lens, and that's really special. Ultimately, the thing that I would like the viewer to take away from my work is the opportunity to share in that feeling of familiarity, for them to connect to their own experience by observing mine, and for that to be heartwarming and fun.